Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you here with me tonight. We're experimenting with Zoom meetings, and so I appreciate your being willing to join with us tonight. Although this will be airing on YouTube, so that won't make any difference to the rest of you. Tonight we're going to be celebrating the full moon in the sign of Aries and its opposite sign, Libra. And we're starting a little early because the exact moment of the full moon is at 7:35 tonight. And so we want to leave time for us to be in meditation at that moment, because that's the moment of the most powerful downpouring of the Aries Libra energies. So the format is going to be that I'm going to talk for a little while, and then we're going to go into a silent meditation at 7:30 for 10 minutes while that moment of the exact moment of the full moon is pouring down upon us. And then at about 7:40, we'll sort of stay in meditation, but I'm going to take you on a guided visualization where we're going to deal with the subject of fear. This is a time when we are socially isolated, when we're having to keep our distance from people, and we're sequestered at home. And so I think many of us are feeling kind of disconnected. So I'm hoping that this format works out for us so that while we're in this place in our country, we can come together like this, and even though we're not connecting physically, we can at least see one another's faces. We can connect with each other in that way, or we can even just remember this group when we're finished here and link up with people subjectively. Just through your intention, you can connect with everybody in this group and use this group as a support and as a place for you to come and rest when you get overwhelmed. I think it's one of the great attributes of group life is that we can use it in that way when our fear gets out of control. And you know, fear is everywhere. It's so present right now in our country, and it's present within us. And I think as spiritual seekers, we are really asked to examine how we can deal with fear in a way that will help us grow as people and help us evolve. Because if we get stuck in fear, if we get overwhelmed by fear, we're frozen. We don't have access to our higher wisdom. We don't have access to our compassionate heart. It's hard to live a life of integrity and to take right action when we're stuck in fear. It just doesn't, we tend to react from our personality, and that's not always helpful. So how I experience it lately is that I don't necessarily get overwhelmed with fear very often anymore, but I do feel it as sort of this underlying hum in my body, which can be easily triggered by too much television, too much reading, too much thinking about what if and when and how's it all going to end. And so what I've tried to do is recognize that that's there, not act on it, but also eliminate those things that I know are going to trigger that fear response and make me feel overcome by fear. So as I said, we're going to talk about that in our meditation tonight. So I'm hopeful that that will be of help to you as one of the ways that we can work with fear in a positive way. So we'll talk about Aries for a few minutes. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So it has a lot to do with will. It's the will to initiate. Aries love to start things. They love to get things going. They love to jump in and get things moving. And, you know, it takes a lot of will to initiate things. So Aries has that real dynamic, fiery energy. We're taught that these first 3 full moons of the new astrological year, because we're starting a brand new astrological year, we're starting a new cycle. And these first 3 full moons, the full moon of Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, are considered in the ancient wisdom teachings to be the spiritual highlight, the high point of the entire year, because the energies form this wonderful triangle that's very powerful, a triangle of love and light and power. And that triangle of energy that is generated at these 3 full moons sets the tone for the entire rest of the year and the entire rest of the full moon periods. So it's a very wonderful opportunity to really take in this powerful energy and use it in a constructive way if we can. It's often called the festival of Easter or resurrection, and that's because it focuses on the energy of regeneration, rebirth, and renewal. In the ancient wisdom teachings, again, we look at that in a symbolic way. We say the personality is wanting to be reborn into its true nature, which is the soul. It wants to be regenerated so that it can live in alignment with that soul, so that it is a servant to the soul. You know, for eons and eons of time, our egos, our personalities have been the ones directing our lives. And so once that awakening happens, where we become aware that there's something greater than just our own personalities, we begin our evolutionary journey back to our source. So this period of renewal and rebirth really infuses us with that energy to lift ourselves up and expand our consciousness to whatever next level is there for us. We're asked to awaken and to rise up more fully into the Christ consciousness in our hearts and in our lives, because that's who we are in essence, is that Christ consciousness of unconditional love. Alice Bailey, in her book Bethlehem to Calvary, says this, quote, "Resurrection is the passage from the death of self-absorption to the life of unselfish love. The transition from the darkness of individualism and separateness to the light of universal spirit. From falsehood to truth. From slavery of the world to the liberty of the eternal." So this journey from darkness into light and from imprisonment of the body to a state of pure being is the path of resurrection. And it's not like it's a one-time happening where the physical body is lifted up out of the grave. It's something that we can invoke every minute, every hour, every day of our lives. We can invoke that energy and that intention to be born anew, to let go of the past, to move on, to focus on the future. And at this time of collective suffering, I think we can imagine that the virus that we're all dealing with is forcing us to examine these concepts. The concept of self-absorption versus unselfish love. I mean, if we look at that in our own lives, we can ask ourselves, how focused am I right now on just myself and making sure I'm safe and I'm protected and not think at all about the other people in the world? Not that we shouldn't take care of ourselves and take every precaution that we can, but let's don't lose sight of the fact that we can also be of service to the greater whole, to the other people in the world who are suffering. We can examine the concept of separation versus how we're all connected. You know, where do you feel separate in your life? Where do you feel disconnected? Where do you feel alone? And can you sink into that knowing that no matter what happens in the world, we are all still connected, heart to heart and soul to soul. We just are. We're all part of the human family. We can examine the concept of truth versus falsehood. I mean, that's so prevalent in our world right now. Can we be discerning and really look for the truth and not get sucked into the false statements that are being made? So this offers us a wonderful opportunity to examine ourselves. And I think that's the critical thing about any crisis that comes up. It's not about what's out there. It's about how we deal with it within ourselves. You know, it's an inside job. It starts with us. So it's an opportunity to look at these places where we feel separate, look at these places where we feel selfish and self-absorbed, and ask ourselves how we can transform that into something more soul-oriented. Aries is a fiery sign, and one of its rulers is Uranus. And Uranus brings this electric fire, this electric energy that shatters and cleanses. And what it shatters is whatever is in need of dying, so that something new can be born. So it shatters all those old structures and institutions that aren't working for people anymore. It shatters our old, outmoded ways of thinking that are harmful and not relevant. It shatters all of our old mindsets that keep us trapped in that negative thinking. And so it's a positive thing, even though it isn't always comfortable to have those things shattered within us. We can look upon it as a way of preparing the way for new forms to be built that hopefully will reflect more of our soul's values, the spiritual values, rather than being caught up in all the materialism in our world today. So we really are in a period of rebirth and renewal. And as we know, when we're in these transition periods where everything feels so uncertain, you know, we just feel like we don't have control over anything. And sometimes we long to go back to the way it was. But the uncertainty and the unknown, I think, is what triggers so much of our fear. And so we're going to deal with that, as I said, in our meditation tonight. Hopefully we can transform that fear so that we can all experience more peace and calm as we go through this time together. So let's take a moment and prepare ourselves for meditation. So let's close our eyes and just establish a nice rhythm to your breathing. Just noticing the in-breath and the out-breath. And let the breath bring you home into the body to settle and relax. Notice any places in the body where you're holding tension. Allow the shoulders to drop. Think about the muscles in your neck, how strong they are to hold up your head, but just imagine that tension being released. And then focus on your head and your face, lowering your jaw, unclenching. releasing any tension in the temples, in the area behind the eyes, in the head, the scalp, the skull, the brain. And breathe into the chest and the heart. And into the belly. Breathe into soft belly. Allow the legs and the feet and the knees and the hips to all let go and relax. And then take a moment to breathe a silent Om into your physical body. And then breathe a silent Om into the emotional body, turning the volume down on any disturbing feelings. And breathing a silent Om into the mental body to quiet the mind. And then from that place in your heart, send forth an intention to link with everyone else here tonight in this group, heart to heart. And see if you can feel that energy coming toward you as people send their loving energy to you. Open your heart to receive. And imagine now that our energy as a group has coalesced into a beautiful magnetic sphere of light, powerful, radiating all of our souls and heart's energies collected together in this sphere. And send this sphere of light out into the world, to our planet as a blessing. And now put your attention gently again on your heart. And hold the intention to keep your heart open and receptive and willing to accept the downpouring of love and light and fire and will that comes from Aries and Libra. Just be open and receptive. And at the exact moment of the full moon, I will ring the bell, and then we'll stay in meditation for a few moments afterwards. So sit in the silence, in openness and receptivity. Now, keeping your eyes closed and remembering that this Aries Libra connection and energy lives in you now. It's a part of your body. So as you go through this month, think about how to bring those two energies together. The fiery, dynamic, initiating energy of Aries with the loving, harmonious, relational energy of Libra. How can we bring out into the world what needs to be brought out this month, but have it come from a place of awareness of the other, so that it's not just a selfish manifestation that we're bringing out, but it's for the good of all of humanity. So whatever gifts you might have, however small you might consider them, see if you can use this initiating energy of Aries to bring them forth into the world for the betterment of everyone. Even if it just means you sit and send them light and love, or you pray for them. Whatever it is that you can do to bring your gift out into the world, this is a wonderful time to start it. And even if it just means you change your thinking from fear and despair and hopelessness and confusion to peace and harmony and hope and grace, that's a wonderful gift to give to the world. So just consider this month the marriage of Aries and Libra. And know that those energies live in you and are available to you. Tomorrow and the next day are called the days of distribution and radiation. So we are asked to be very mindful as we go through those next 2 days of what we are radiating out into the world. What thoughts are we projecting? What feelings are we projecting? And because we are filled now with these sacred energies, these powerful sacred energies, we want to make sure that our motivations are unselfish and that we come from a place of good intention for all of humanity. So just to be mindful of that for the next 2 days. Consider what an impact it can make on the whole world when we walk through our days with optimism and hope and light and goodwill. It can change the world. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit here and move away from focusing on the energies of this full moon. And feel for a little bit about fear. So I want you to just take a moment and ask yourself the question, what am I most afraid of right now? And if you can, put a name to it or describe it in 1 or 2 words. Call it by a name. I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid for my loved ones. And I'd like you to feel it as strongly as you can, without being overwhelmed by it. Just bring that feeling of fear into your body for a moment. Perhaps see if you can get an image of fear. What does it look like to you if you had to create an image of it? Does it have a color, a texture, a sound? Not all of us are visual, so don't worry if you don't come up with an image, but I do want you to see if you can feel it in your body. Notice where it lives in your body. Take a moment to feel it and notice where it is in your body that you feel it. Now put one of your hands on that spot. And if you haven't located a spot in your body where you can feel it, put it on your solar plexus, the area right below your chest, above your belly. That's the seat of the emotional body. So that's where a lot of us feel our fear. So just put your hand gently there. Feel your hands touching your fear. And gently breathe into that place. Sometimes this is all it takes to dissolve that fear, to dissipate it. But let's assume for this exercise that it's still there. I want you to think about acceptance. How would it be to just accept that the fear is there and not try to change it or fix it or do anything else with it? Just accept that it's present in your body. We don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it. But it's what's there. It's what's real. So when we struggle against what's real and what's really happening, we suffer. If we can just say, fear is present. I accept that fear is present in my body. Every human feels fear. I am not alone in this. It's what it means to be human. But it's only a part. It's not all of who we are. And naming it and just saying fear is present, it sort of allows us to step back from it and look at it. We don't become it. We don't identify completely with it. We know we are something more than just our fear. Now I'd like you to take your other hand and place it on your heart. See if you can fill your heart with a loving feeling. Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's love for a person or an animal, a partner, a child. Something that will fill your heart and let it expand. Breathe that loving energy into the heart. Feel it open. And then I'd like you to invite your fear into that heart place, into that place of love and compassion and acceptance. What happens to this image of fear when it's surrounded by love in the cauldron of your heart? Can you make a home for it there? The more we can accept it into our hearts as part of who we are and surround it with our loving feelings and our compassion, that fear quiets down. It just asks for our loving attention, our awareness, an acknowledgement, and an allowing of it to be there without judgment, without trying to push it away. Just holding it in our heart until its energy dissipates. And when that happens, energy becomes available to us that wasn't there before. Because it takes a lot of energy to hold fear in constriction and tightness. But when we open and allow it, we free up that energy to be used for higher things, to be used for the greater good. Holding it in love transforms it. You lift it up, you raise its vibration. And once you're in a place of compassion for your fear, you have the opportunity to inquire about what it can teach you. What can you learn from this fear that might help you grow and expand? What purpose does it serve in your life? See if you can invite fear into your home, to sit at your table with a cup of tea and have a conversation. What would you learn? I actually did this myself, and I was totally amazed at what I learned. I learned that my fear was there to wake me up and to remind me of my essence, that I am so much more than just that fear. So what a beautiful thing. Now I can feel that fear and have a totally different feeling about it. It's there to wake me up. So for now, just take a moment and send it your gratitude for being there, for showing up. It might be interesting this month for you to experiment with fear in this way, to just notice when you're triggered and when fear arises. And see if you can take a few minutes to practice acceptance instead of reaction. To let go of the struggle. So if you bring yourselves gently back, feel yourself fully present, grounded, centered on the earth. Remembering the energies of Libra and Aries in your body, strength and will and loving harmony. I'd like to close now with the great invocation, the world prayer given out by a Tibetan master, Dwal Kul. And we pause between each stanza to visualize the energies pouring down. We are told this is the most powerful prayer that we can use to invoke the aid of the great ones. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Om